Okay, good morning again, pharmacy. I want a volunteer, preferably a senior, to draw a prescription on the board labeled with a different part. Seniors. Okay. Thank you. One of the things that I failed to mention last Friday regarding the PTCB versus the NHA, which is going to be a question on the final exam. You won't see this as a question on the PTCE. They don't ask about their own tests, okay? The passing score, I think I forgot to mention this. The passing score for the PTCE is 1400. That's latest information. Glad you volunteered. You write so nice. The parts in red.
How many questions are on the drug word? Is there all of them?
It's always 20 questions for drug words quiz, 10 questions for abbreviation.
For the final?
Oh, final is 50 something. Final for technique. You too. I thought I'm old. She wanted to be old. That's okay. You get a control. Oh. So much glare at this angle. So
Can I see the strength?
I know, right? That's why I said I'm glad she volunteered. Her handwriting's so nice. We're gonna call Jen. She did all of
I was trying not to.
Camille also writes very nice. You have to say, share your course and your Mark. Not here, sorry. About people to die here. But you know, you should not be absent. Which doctors write that nice? Make your PO lowercase. Top ends like
Add the first, second, fourth.
Don't show them yet, okay, Tisha.
Let me just
You're double checking. No, it has to be 3 at the end. 3. The end should be 3. Restroom, correct. Oh. That's all you label. Label all the parts, yeah. She wants to take turns, so Stefan, would you label one more? Part? The prescription, the different parts. I'll do one more. Okay. Should finish it up. You're already there. Yeah. The right side, the others. Specify. RX symbol. Call that.
The subscription is the same.
Description. It's unwritten. Phone number, has to be phone number, doctor.
She told me to not do it.
Grade and first name of the doctor, Faith.
Oh.
The doctor. Because of the
Phone number.
number 4, Dr. You wanted me to? I just think that I'm gonna spit a lot today in this next 2 hours or hour. Okay, here we go. Good job, Roxy. Thank you. Should save the seniors face today. Okay, this is a sample prescription. It is so complete, which is a good thing. Okay, but these are the major parts of a prescription. Okay. I have to review this part for the freshmen's sake, and also because there's a lot of laws involved by just looking at this prescription. Okay, a lot of regulations, a lot of laws involved, and freshmen haven't had pharmacy law yet, that sequence. Okay, there'll be a good amount of questions on your final exam, but most especially on the PTC. So this is a sample prescription, and this is the information of the doctor. Okay, Andrew Smith, MD. The doctor's information should have his or her clinic or office address, not the home address. Okay, should have contact information as well. Next one, a prescription should always have the date. So this is date part. A date should always have month, day, and year. If it doesn't have the year, it's not a valid prescription. Because there are rules pertaining to dispensing prescriptions. Is that clear? This was part of the question on the PTC. One thing you should never do in the pharmacy is assume. Never ever assume that that is a milligrams, written in milligrams, that mg looking like an mg is milligrams when the doctor meant micrograms. There are rules, regulations we set in place so that we can minimize medication errors, and this is what we're going to be talking about in the next couple of days. Never ever assume. So if it doesn't have a date, don't assume that it's written the current year. It's not a valid prescription, because a prescription may look brand new. However, it was written last year. Okay. There are rules pertaining to prescriptions as to how long is this prescription valid from the time the doctor wrote it. That clear? So this one. And then here comes your patient. Patient's name. Patient's date of birth. Usually you don't see that on a prescription that is given to the doctor. Okay. And then the doctor puts the information, or the pharmacist asks date of birth or asks for your insurance card, all that information. This address is important, but not all prescriptions will have the patient's address. Okay. This is the patient's address. Here comes first law. Not first, but one of the laws I need to discuss. Patient's address is a must by law if the prescription, the drug written for the prescription, is a C2. Okay. But nowadays, because of our abuse problems, they wanted the address written if the prescription is a narcotic in general, all controlled substances. Again, state by state law differ. Federal and state laws differ. Another question that comes up on the PTCE very often, or all the time, not very often, is when state and federal laws differ, what is the answer? We follow the exact verbiage as whichever one is more stringent, and stringent means stricter. That clear? That always comes up on the PTCE. Always. I'll talk about filing. Some states would like you to file prescriptions for 2 years, controlled substances. Like federal has a different rule. When that differs, you follow whichever one's more stringent. It doesn't mean that federal is higher. We always follow federal. Okay, whichever one's more stringent is the answer. Okay, the RX symbol is what you call superscription. Others call it the prescription symbol. It's okay. Fun fact though, RX came from receta. Okay, which means recipe. Because in the old days, all of the prescriptions are recipes to be compounded. Patient offers the information, what he's feeling or what she's feeling, and then you whip up something. This is the drug for that. We call that compounding, sequence 3. Okay, when we create something that's not available to us. Hint, hint, wink, wink. There's about 2 questions on compounding on your final exam. We have 2 types of compounding: sterile and non-sterile compounding. Sterile compounding, you have to be in a sterile environment. That's where you garb, and we've been doing that for the last couple of days. Where you garb, you compound it in the clean room in a hood. Okay, a laminar airflow hood, be it horizontal or vertical. Non-sterile compounding is compounding where you don't have to be in a sterile environment. Okay, say for example, reconstituting a powder for antibiotic for kids. You don't have to be in a laminar flow hood in there. You can just add water in there, okay, and that's still considered sterile, non-sterile compounding. Hint, hint, wink, wink. It's also called extemporaneous compounding. That shows up on your final exam. Sterile compounding may also be called extemporaneous compounding. The other question I'm going to talk about when it makes sense. Okay, for now, let's go back to the prescription. So if this is the prescription, the drug and the strength of the drug is called the inscription. Okay, so in this case, it's MS Cotton, which is morphine, 15 milligrams. Okay. Other books would say the quantity to be dispensed is part of the inscription. But know that if you see this, we call it pound key in the old days. There's a more technical term for that. I keep forgetting what it's called, but your time, that's not a technical term. That's your genre term. Yeah, hashtag nowadays. It was pound keys during my time, but that's not that whatever scientific term. Maybe we'll look it up later, but I don't want to ruin my flow. So this is the quantity to be dispensed. If MS Cotton comes in a tablet form, does it come in a tablet form, capsule form? Both? Okay, that means this 60 pertains to tablet. Okay. That's a quantity to be dispensed. Your SIG. Your SIG, when you see that, even if the doctor doesn't write SIG, it pertains to signatura. In English, instructions either to the patient on how to use it or administer it, or instructions to the pharmacist or the pharmacy, including pharmacy technicians, on how to compound it. Can you follow? If the prescription is ready-made, if the drug is ready-made, this is an instruction to the patient on how to take it. Okay, but prescriptions can be sent to a pharmacy, which we've been talking about, the different settings, right? Specialty pharmacy, wherein they have to compound it. Okay. This is where your abbreviations come into play. Right? PRN stands for as needed, from the words "Prorenata." Okay, for acute pain, the doctor specified that. I hope all doctors write this way, pretty. Okay, but that's not real case scenario. But one of the things that we've done, part of the regulation is, especially in hospitals, doctors have to input it on the computer to avoid medication errors or misreading of those prescriptions. Okay. One of these rules is to write the words microgram and write the words milligrams and not just use mg or mcg. Okay. TJC, which stands for the Joint Commission, is the accrediting body for hospitals. They check for everything. Of course, they set up rules on how to prevent this medication errors. They're called the Joint Commission. If you work in the hospital, they're going to say, oh, we're going to be audited. And usually the ones that audit them, the organization is called TJC, the Joint Commission. They're going to say, oh, the commission is here or TJC is here. When you hear that, that means they're going to be audited. Okay. It's an organization that checks for the quality of the service or patient care that hospitals have. They even check the menu of the cafeteria, what staff eat. Yeah, they check everything. So you want everything spick and span. Okay, so TJC sets up regulations on minimizing medication errors. Hint, hint, wink, wink. There's another organization involved in that, which will come up on both PTCE and final exam. ISMP, Institute for Safe Medication Practices. They have set up all this do not use list. Okay. Together with TJC combination, the goal is to minimize medication errors because it's easily misinterpreted. The mg can be, or if the doctor meant micrograms, but you read it as milligrams, or whoever is dispensing or filling that prescription, that's a big problem and a big mistake because that's 1,000 times overdose. We know that we've been talking about that. This is Shin case in Summerlin Hospital, Emily's Law, okay, in Ohio. So we want to help, or those organizations are the primary organizations for helping minimize medication errors by setting up regulations. Okay, so Institute of Safe Medication Practice. Okay. I'm going to talk about the do not use list as I move on. Okay, SIG, abbreviation. What does this mean? PO. By mouth from the word per ore. So if you don't know your abbreviation, no matter how good you are in math, you cannot calculate certain problems such as day supply or quantity to be dispensed. Is that clear? Common questions on the PTCE as well are day supply and quantity to be dispensed. It's always repeated. Okay, you're going to have to calculate that. That's why every single math class that you have, I repeat that. Okay, your lab finals include that. Okay, day supply and quantity to be dispensed. For this one, there is a quantity stated for the example given. Okay, 60. But it didn't say how long will that prescription last. So you don't know the day's supply for this prescription, correct? However, it should not stop you from filling this prescription. Why? As long as you can calculate, because one variable is present, you're still good. Okay. I'm saying, say for example, it becomes like Q4H, right? In her example, take 1 tablet by mouth every 4 hours as needed for acute pain. This has to be written, this whole thing in the format that we've been talking about. Okay. Take 1, you add the dosage form tablet by mouth. Usually doctors forget the PO part. Okay. Every 4 hours spelled out as needed for acute pain. If the doctor didn't write it for acute pain, you don't have to write it. We translate it as it is, but there's 2 things you may add. The verb at the beginning, so you should know your action words, your verb. If it's tablets, it's take. Okay. Instill, if it's what? If it's eye drops, okay. Cough, inhale, if it's inhalers, okay. Insert, suppositories, apply, creams, ointments, very good. Okay, those are the verbs or action words that you can add. Okay, I told you to translate as is, but you're allowed to add that. You're allowed to add the route or the route if the doctor didn't write PO by mouth. You want to be specific because not all tablets are meant to be swallowed. Okay, so you have to be specific on the route or the route. Is that clear? Okay. The doctor didn't write for how long? Don't write it. The doctor didn't write what it's for, don't write it. Example, Wellbutrin. Wellbutrin is a drug for what? Depression, right? With a secondary function of, what's the other use? Smoking cessation. Patient came in, picture this, patient came in wanting to stop smoking. And then you added for depression because you know that it's for depression. What happens? The patient is now so lost thinking, I went to the doctor not because I'm depressed. I'm happy as a butterfly. I just wanted to stop smoking. Now you confuse the patient. This drug is not for me, right? So if it's not in there, don't put it. You're allowed to put the verb though, okay, and the root or the route, and the dosage form. Okay. If the doctor didn't write the dosage form or the strength, it doesn't make a prescription invalid, especially if there's only one dosage form or strength available in the market. The doctor didn't write it because, which is sad because the doctor's assuming that you know, right? The doctor didn't write it because there's only one strength for that drug. The doctor didn't write it because there's only one dosage form for that drug, which is tablet. That clear? So that doesn't make the prescription invalid. Usually the doctors don't write the generic or the brand. It's either the doctor will write the brand or the doctor will write the generic. But what do we dispense? What do we dispense? The generic, most of the time, the generic, because that's what the insurance will pay for. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Insurances are called third party. Insurances are called third party. So insurance billing is called third party billing. And another hint, hint, wink, wink, 80% of the drugs that we, 80%, hint, hint, wink, wink, the drugs that we dispense are in generic. 80%. Come up on your. When we bill an insurance, we call that, another hint, hint, wink, wink, online adjudication. The way I describe it is the pharmacy computer talks to the insurance computer. So it's called online adjudication. Okay, online adjudication. Okay. Now you understand why I had somebody draw a prescription, because there's so many regulations, laws involved in just staring at one prescription. Okay, 80% of drugs that we dispense are generic. Okay. Yeah. Okay. When I describe it, it's like the pharmacy computer talking to the insurance computer so that we know how much we charge. Okay. And what is a portion that the patients pay? Hint, wink, wink. Copay or copayment. That is a portion that the patient pays. Are you guys here for average wholesale price? And you went see, you didn't hear that sequence one? But that's where it picked up from. Copay, copayment. Get back to the prescription. Translate your SIG as it is. Sometimes the SIG, if it's sent to a compounding pharmacy, is an instruction for compounding for the pharmacist or for the pharmacy staff in general. Okay. Refills. Sometimes you will see NR or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. NR stands for no refill. I'm going to talk about after this because I need the board again. Table. So I said I wish the whole thing Like we're surrounded by dry erase board, right? So I can just like jump from one place to another. Okay, so refill. There are different rules for refill for each prescription or group of prescriptions. We're going to talk about that. Okay, there is a DEA number here, which is important. DEA stands for what first? Drug Enforcement Administration, not agency. Common mistake. Drug Enforcement Administration. So the DEA issues a number to the prescribers and pharmacies who are allowed, for prescribers who are allowed to write controlled substances prescriptions. For pharmacies, their DEA numbers are for them to carry in their inventory controlled substances. Is that clear? Okay, so it's the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, that issues this number. Okay, DEA is under the DOJ, Department of Justice. So it's serious. Okay, it's not under the FDA. Okay. That's why when somebody gets trialed for drug trafficking, under the DOJ. Okay. These are not just series of numbers thrown out there. Okay, there is an important step to figure out whether the DEA number is valid or not, which is always, always, always on the PTCE. And I will teach you this. I'll teach you how to check for the validity of a DEA number in 3 short steps. Write it down, go in one of the pages of your packet. Always. So the way PTCB will ask it is, this is a DEA number, or this is the doctor's name, okay? Which amongst this DEA number is a valid DEA number? That's how they usually ask it, both PTCE and ExCPT. So your options will be a series of DEA numbers. Hey, excuse me. She even like jumped off from her chair for a bit. That was hard. Yeah. It reminded me of the tense unit I put on my calves last night, you know, the electrode, and my leg was twitching, my muscles were twitching, like I'm torturing myself. It's all good, you know, the fun of aging. Mateo was like, here. Okay, so you will have to know how to check the validity of a DEA number. Step 1, the first character should be an A, B, M, or F. A, B, M, or F. That's not yet included in my 3 steps that I minimized. I think your packet has 6 steps. I minimized it to 3. Okay. A, B, M, or F. A or B, doctor is under an insurance or private practice. Okay. The way I remember M is those who are given a DEA number that's not a medical doctor, but they're allowed to prescribe. Examples, dentists. Okay. Who else? Vets, DOs, sure, chiropractors. They're allowed to prescribe, but they're not medical, not MD. Okay, so that's how I code it in my head. The F, how I code it in my head is federal, because you usually see this in military settings. Okay, and they're not MDs as well. So A, B, M, or F, let's do our first check. Is it an A? Okay, good job. Check. The next letter should be the first letter of the doctor's last name. Our doctor is Andrew Smith, and it's an S. Is it correct? Yes. Now, here comes the number. 3 steps. Step 1. Add the first, the third, and the 5th digits. In this case, it so happened that it's 1 and 3 and 5. 1 plus 3 plus 5 is 9. Step 2, this is the reason now why I did it this way versus the one in your packet, 6 steps. Because I don't want you to forget an important part on step 2. Step 2 would be add the second, the fourth, and the 6th digits, in this case. 2, 4, and 6. And what is that? 12. I'm going to squeeze this in a bit because I made it step 2 so you never forget to multiply this sum by 2. 12 times 2 is 4. Now here comes step 3. Add the first step and the second step. 33. The last digit should coincide with the last digit of the DEA number. Okay, remember how the PTCE will be worded? It'll give you a doctor's name, full name, name, and last name, and it will give you 4 options for DEA numbers. You rule out the ones that don't have the S for the second character. You rule out the ones that don't have an A, B, M, or F. And then do the math. Is that clear? I summarized it this way so you never forget that step 2 is times 2. That's a common thing that people forget. Clear? Roxy, is MS content schedule 2? C2? Okay, here comes more rules and laws. If it's a C2, first rule, no refill. 0. Okay. Must be ink signed in black by the doctor or the prescriber. Must be ink signed in black by the prescribers. So it's always a brand new prescription because it's no refill, right? That clear? Okay. Must be ink signed in black. Why am I saying that? Because the other prescription medications can be pre-printed and pre-signed by the doctor or stamped, but not C2 prescriptions. Is that clear? So no refill, must be ink signed in black, really ink signed by the doctor. So it's always a brand new prescription. No transfers. Why? It's always a brand new prescription. Because it's no refill. So how could you transfer? These rules, start remembering them, okay? Because it will come up. The prescription is good for 14 days. For C2s, any C2 prescription is good for 14 days. In the state of Nevada, if it's 4/3/23, that's current date, right? Day 1 starts tomorrow, the 24th hour. Okay, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. The last day you can actually fill this prescription is April 17th. That's the last day. After that, we cannot fill this prescription. Is that clear? If it's a C2. Okay. But other states count this day as day 1. Okay. For us, the 4th, 24th hour is 1. Okay. But you will not see your patients on April 17th. I bet you. I bet you all my money in my wallet. So I don't have a lot. I don't carry cash. But if I do, I'll bet everything. Okay. So anyway, April 17th, you won't see them on April 17th. I bet you that. When are you going to see them? A few minutes after that prescription was written. Why? Because supposedly these patients are in so much pain. Supposedly, huh? Well, not discounting those patients. they should be the ones in there right away. We do have, that we do have an opioid epidemic crisis here in the United States. So many of them are also drug addicts, or they got addicted to it because of access, because of an injury, whatever it is. Okay. That clear? Okay. Which leads me to each state, hint, hint, wink, wink, has what we call a PDMP. Mention this. I don't know if you remember. What's PDMP? PDMP. Prescription Drug Monitoring Program. This is set up per state, not federal. Okay, what is the goal? What is the goal? What do you think? Prescription Drug Monitoring Program. Because of this opioid epidemic crisis that we have, control your what? Not only your C2s or controlled substances in general, all controlled substances, we monitor them so that we can check that, or we can help with a problem, and so that no drug diversion happens. Okay, so that we don't continue to add to the opioid epidemic crisis. But this means, what is this? Prescription Drug Monitoring Program. Each state has set up one, and the rules are different per state. Okay. And this is why now, I think it was in January 2020, 2021, okay, Nevada specifically, doctors are not allowed to write down C2 prescriptions anymore. It has to be e-prescribed. It has to be e-prescribed. So meaning transferred from the doctor's office straight to the pharmacy. Here. That's part of the PDMP for our state. Part of Nevada law. Here. Remember this, organizations, they always come up on the PTCE as well. We're going to talk about books as well. They always come up on the PTCE and on your finals. Okay, so you know how to check for the validity of DEA numbers. You know that there should be a DEA number for that doctor if they're going to prescribe controlled substances. You know the rules for controlled substances. Now, hint, hint, wink, wink, always come up on finals and PTCE. DEA form 222. See why I had one prescription drawn? DEA form 222 is for what? Those who did law with me. To order C2s. That's why it's 222. This is the form that we use to order C2 medications. It can be a paper form. Okay. It can be online. Okay. But there was one question on the ExCPT that I saw about this one. How many drugs can you order using the form DEA 222? 10, because there's 10 rows. Like, man, I had to think when I was doing the review. I said, how many? Like, okay, 10. 10. Okay, DEA form 222. Another rule. As a general rule, we file prescriptions for 2 years. 2 years. But if the state says file it for 3 years, which one do you follow? The state this time, because it's stricter. 3 years is stricter than 2 years when we're talking about filing. So when the state and federal differ, which one do you follow? Whichever one is more stringent. So if the state says 3 years, then you should keep it for 3 years. Okay. But on the PTCE and final exam, if you're asked, 2 years. You see that option, it's 2 years. Because that's for everybody. Okay, 2 years. DEA form 222, thank you for putting D2. DEA form 222, good for 2 years. file for 2 years. Okay. And we put that red C mark on the bottom right-hand corner of the prescription before we file, because there's different filing systems. Pass this around. This is the red C mark. Oh. Put it on the bottom right-hand corner. So once we get to compound there, I ask you to use this red. So your administration should probably use it. Just a big capital C red. You stamp it on the right side of the prescription before we file it. So it tells us, hey, I'm a controlled substance. File me separate. With the other prescription. Okay. Inventory of C2s. Since we talked about C, we started talking about C2. Okay. C2s must always be in the safe, and only pharmacists have the key or access to the safe. Okay. Our rule is double lock and key. Otherwise, there's only one lock in the safe, because most of our retail pharmacies have keypad lock. See, Gina's reviewing herself, okay? And that counts as the first lock, and then the next one is the second lock. Double locking key. Okay, that was the rule in a cabinet. But many hospices, nursing homes, assisted living, they have all controls in the safe, because your patients roam around, okay? For access, the access is very, very, very easy for this patient. But by law, C2s must be in the safe. Okay. So many questions. There's only 52 questions in there. I think there's more. Oh, it's a dead different information already. There's just nothing, 2 more questions for the finals. Okay. Let's practice. This doesn't have a day supply, but it has a quantity to be dispensed, right? So if we are to calculate, if on the test you're asked, how long will this prescription last, which means your day supply, how do we do that? You multiply all the sig first, which is 1 times what's every 4 hours? 6, okay? And that's 6, that's your denominator. And what's your numerator? Your total quantity. 60 divided by 6 would be? So your day supply would be 10 days. Always your final answer will be in days. So don't do 1 month. In pharmacy, 1 month is always equivalent to 30 days, no matter what month. We talked about that. We talked about how you know the knuckles, the hills, and the valleys, the knuckles and the spaces. Any questions? Okay, let's talk information about insurance card before I erase this. Okay, anybody with an insurance card, pull them out. Come on, let's do this. I don't have it. No, I do. I haven't used it. So it's still fresh. What does your insurance card have? Name. Your name. ID number. Group number. BIN number. PCN number, right? Or group code. Okay. You have to know that the person number or person code, hint, hint, wink, wink, okay, is the designation as to who that person is. What do I mean by that? Usually a 0, do you have a 00 or 01? What's on yours? You input all of this information in the system, okay, in the software. Who has that 00 or 01? You can see. That's a person code. Okay, then.
Okay.
And okay, 01 is a primary card holder. Yeah, and then your beneficiaries follow. Okay, that's the person code. Is that clear? The group code is if you're under an employer that they have a group number. Okay, what usually comes up on the test is that person code. Person code. That pertains to either primary card holder, secondary card holder, and for your beneficiary. Next one. So we talked about co-payment. What's a premium? Huh? What's a premium? That's what you pay for monthly for the cost of insurance. Right? Okay, that's the premium that you pay monthly for the cost of insurance. Let's talk about the different insurances. It can be through, it can be through employer. That's usually the case. Okay. Medicaid, hint, hint, wink, wink, is for low income and specific groups of people, such as what? Those with specific diseases or children. Okay. What's did I say CAID first? Yeah. Medicaid was the first one I said, right? Okay. So aid, this is how I remember it so you don't get confused. Aid for the lower income group. Care, Medicare, on the other hand, is care for the elderly. But some people who are not elderly can be under a Medicare. Okay. There's different Medicare plans. Let's talk about that. Medicare A, B, C, D. Hint, hint, wink, wink. What's A? Hospitalizations. What's B? Outpatient. What's C? The extra ones. Vision, dental. And what's D? This is how I remember it. Drugs. Of course, the most common question is D. Prescriptions or drugs. Medicare Part D, it's called parts. Medicaid Part A, Part B, Part C, and Part D is drugs. This is another common question. Durable medical equipment. Where does it fall? B, it's in boy. Common question on the PTCE. Very good. Okay. There's another one that we need to talk about that will be on the test. Workman's compensation or workers' compensation. It's another insurance. When you got injured at work, during clock hours at work. Okay, so you may encounter them. You ask the same information. Everything. Okay, you ask them of their employer, date of injury. But what you do not ask them, hint, hint, wink, wink, is how severe is the injury. Okay, what or how severe is the injury? Just the date and the employer. You may also encounter insurance such as for the military or families of military, TRICARE. Okay, usually TRICARE. Sometimes patients have to move out from a specific pharmacy. Like us, before we can go to any pharmacy. And then this year, like our employer partnered with a specific group and we can only go to CVS. Okay, this is the reason why. Okay, so sometimes TRICARE, the Walgreens or CVS, they just transfer from one to another. Okay, but you know better, there are smaller pharmacies, specialty pharmacies that will accommodate you, especially if it's not available, that you needed prescriptions that need to be compounded. Okay, just gave you a couple more questions. Trying to think insurance questions that are on your final exam. Any questions? Because I'm gonna go NDC number next, and then which is a common question. Questions before I move on? Premium, copay. What's copay again? The part that the patient has to pay. What do you call the billing? When the pharmacy computer talks to the line adjudication. What's the terminology we use for insurance? Third party. So when we bill insurance, what do we call that? Can we accept cash? Yes, you can, but there are also red flags that we need to be mindful of, when we accept cash, but we can still accept cash, but most of the time it's insurance, but we also accept cash. Can we accept coupons? Yes. How can you help a patient? This is also on your final. How can you help a patient if the patient has problems paying for the prescription? There are a good number of ways. First one would be coupons, like GoodRx or whatever coupons we have. And then where's the primary source of prescription coupons? The manufacturers. Okay, the manufacturers, especially if it's a new drug, have coupons online too. So refer them to the manufacturer. That's some of the things that you can do. What can you not do? There's one big thing that you cannot or not supposed to do as a pharmacy technician. Counsel, no. That always comes up, okay? But if you're just reading the label, telling the patient that this is a tablet, that you take this 3 times a day, is that counseling? No, okay? But if the patient walks up to you and asks, I had a stomach ache and it feels like acid in my stomach. What can you recommend to me? To open your mouth. That's still considered counseling. Call your pharmacist. Okay? Call your pharmacist all the time. What is that alert that you get on the system when a drug to drug, drug to disease, drug to food happened? What does that stand for? Drug utilization review. Okay. We have DAW as well. What is DAW? All caps. Dispense as written meeting. It has to be dispensed. That's my anti-stress. I smelt it. Thank you. Okay, so you have to dispense whatever is written on the prescription, but there are different codes, and this always comes up on the PTCE and on your test. They're the most popular ones, and the one that we hate. What is the AW0? Okay. No substitution. Did you say no substitution? No product selected, no substitution. DAW1, why do pharmacists take the DAW1? Because you have to give the brand name. The doctor said you have to give the brand name. You cannot substitute it with a generic. That's why we don't like it. It's better something than nothing. And it's not true that the generics are inferior to the brand. And this is a common case too. Patients would say, I'm allergic to that generic. Tell them they're copay. They're not allergic anymore. Okay. But I'm not discounting the patients who really have allergies. And you know what the case is? It's not the active ingredient that they're allergic to. It is the fillers and the binders. Lactose intolerant, there's a lactose binder. Okay. Not necessarily the active ingredient. Okay, DAW1. What's the AW2? Patient requested brand. Okay. Patient requested brand. This is how I remember it. The doctor is the first in hierarchy, then the patient, and we're the bottom. The AW3. What's the AW3? Pharmacist had to substitute. Why? Because the generic is not available. It's not available yet, or there's no generic. Remember those three. There's more. What's 4? What was that? The other way. Generic drug not in stock, correct? That's 4. Read again. So the insurance, you're right, the insurance rejected it, but there's no. It's what Megan said. Megan repeated. Generic drug is not in stock, but there's brand available. Okay, there's an 8. Define an 8. Okay, 8 is the generic is not yet available in the marketplace because it's a new drug. Okay, so it has to be brand. Those are the common ones, but the 1, 2, 3 are the most common. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 0. 0, I see that. It's usually the 1. We hate this. I talked to you about the whole red tape and politics involved in that DAW1. Why we don't like it as pharmacists or as people dispensing the drug. Questions? So I'm going to proceed with one of the favorite questions on the PTCE as well, NDC numbers. Roxy, can you erase the board? It should not be Roxy because she wrote it. Okay. Questions? Questions? A lot of information with one prescription, right? And this is why there was a student before, like, he didn't like, he said it doesn't make sense, like the things that we're studying yet. And I told you, as you move on, the puzzle pieces are going to start clicking. Okay. And once you get to law, you're going to realize that when you receive a prescription, it's not just filling it. The laws are right here, right on your head. Because you have to be mindful. Is this a C2? Is this a C3? Is this a C4? Is this a C5? Is this a regular maintenance drug? Can I fill this? Can I continue to fill it? Is this person a drug addict? Like I'm going to show you like those falsified prescriptions. Okay, it takes years most of the time to figure out like, oh, okay, this. Okay, but sometimes it doesn't take years. That's why we don't feel any prescription that has erasures or scratched off or scribbled on. Okay, and then it's a red flag when the patient wants to pay cash, doesn't have an insurance, but the drug is so expensive and has potential for abuse. How could you not afford an insurance and just want to pay cash all the time? And that's an addictive. That's why your pseudoephedrine has limits too, even if it's over the counter in many states. Because it has the potential for abuse, to make meth from it. To the again on the question. Per day is 3.6 grams. Okay, per day as a maximum patient can purchase maximum pseudoephedrine. What's per 30-day period? Let's talk about NDC numbers. Your bottle will have lot number, expiration date, NDC number, barcode. Okay. Lot number is the series of numbers, and it's the one that we use for recalls. If a manufacturer or FDA calls for a recall, voluntary recall, the manufacturer said, there's a little bit of a problem with my drug, let's recall the drugs. Voluntary from the manufacturer. Involuntary recall means the FDA said, hey, you got to recall this drug. There's so many complaints about this drug. And this is a compilation of what we call the, what program is that? MedWatch, correct. Hint, hint, wink, wink. MedWatch is a program of the FDA where we report ADRs, hint, hint, wink, wink, or ADEs. What's ADR? Adverse drug reaction. What's ADE? Adverse drug event. Hint, hint, wink, wink. So the program is called MedWatch. It's a reporting system online, FDA's website. When a patient comes and complains about adverse drug reactions or adverse drug event. The difference between side effect and adverse drug event or adverse drug reaction, here's how you know. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Side effect is known. During the clinical trials, the patients who volunteered in the clinical trials showed the side effects. That's why it's known. When you say ADRs, adverse drug reaction, it didn't show during the clinical trial. So the word is unknown. This is the reason why our vaccines, COVID vaccines, are still on reporting. We still want people to report, patients to report what side effects, because it's a fairly new drug, really, really new. Okay. That's why even after marketing it or putting it out in the public, it still continuously goes on clinical trial. What phase clinical trial is that? When it's already out in the market? Phase 4. What's before you test it on humans? What do you call that? Pre-clinical trials. Good job. Okay, for recalls, we use the I turned into a 3-year-old. Okay, for recalls, remember there's always a question on the PTCE. I told you I'm going to spew a lot of things today. For recalls, we use the lot number. Okay, it doesn't mean that all of the bottles, all of the drugs will be recalled. It's a specific batch or group, and that code is called the lot number. Is that clear? Okay. Next one on the bottle is your expiration date. Usually expiration date comes as month/year. When you see that, it pertains to what? The last day of that particular month. Is that clear? Okay, so what is for March? 31st. You use your knuckles. You already know that. Okay, I'm not going to deal with that. March 31st will be the last that you can use this. In retail setting, if it's we pull those prescriptions depending on the rules of the company. Okay, 2 months before expiration, we send them out with credit, depending on the drugs as well, but we usually pull 6 months. Those drugs that are close to 6 months to expiration, we pull them out already. Okay, in hospitals. So we mark them. I have to discuss some inventory items too, because freshmen didn't have inventory yet. Okay. Next one is your barcode. Okay. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Barcoding system is one of the things we use to minimize or prevent medication error. Any computerization, the goal is to minimize medication error. But there's another one that we use in inventory to minimize medication error. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Always comes up both on the final exam and on the PTCE. We call it the tall man lettering. And what is this? Can you explain what the tall man lettering is? What is that? Okay, tall man lettering. What is a tall man lettering? sound alike. Okay, it's tied to your LASA, or others call it salad. Look-alike, sound-alike drugs. There's a list on your book. I also have a list of look-alike, sound-alike drugs. What we do, you see those labels in our pharmacy? Some syllables on those are in tall letters or capital letters because they're look-alike, sound-alike drugs, so that it's screaming at you. Yeah. So homework, list some look-alike and sound-alike drugs will be turned in on paper in the basket for 8 a.m. tomorrow. Look-alike, sound-alike drugs to help us, hey, like tension, right? They have some syllables capitalized so that it tells you, well, check your prescription. Is it really this drug that you need or the other one that sounds like it? Okay. To help minimize prevention, to help minimize medication errors, we use a barcoding system, the tall man lettering, automation, and computerization. Okay. Hint, hint, point. Okay. Now we get to the fun part, NDC number. Listen to this common mistake. NDC is assigned by the manufacturer, not the FDA. NDC is assigned by the manufacturer to their drug. How many digits is the NDC number? 11. Sometimes it's 10. Okay, 10 to 11. But know that common is 11. And this always comes up on the PTCE, ExCPT, and final exam. Which is the phone rang. We have what we call triage, hint, hint, wink, wink, PTCE and ExCPT. So I have an interview at 12 o'clock. Triage means prioritizing who to help first or who to attend to first. Triage, okay? We'll do this sequence 3, customer service. Why? Sometimes you'll have 10 patients. Like, who do you prioritize first? Phone calls, who do you prioritize first? Okay, that's called triaging. Okay, and in natural calamities, who do we help first? What did you say? The what? Okay, so you gotta know triage. Okay, since the phone rang, let's go back to NDC number. We're gonna do that sequence, the triaging, elderly, handicapped, disabled, all this fun stuff. Gina, do you know natural calamity triage?
Yeah, but probably not the same for you guys.
They're not in the pharmacy, but say natural calamity in general, like earthquake, fire. Okay, who do you help first?
So
Yourself. It's so true. In an airplane, you do. I like that answer. Was that's so true. These airplanes, I just watched the video. This is so funny. Well, when you ask a mom, they said, like in an airplane, when the airplane's crashing or the pilot made an announcement about this, the moms always fail this question. And you're with your child, okay? What do you do first? Who do you put the oxygen to first? Okay. Yeah, that's what they said. Like during the before the takeoff, right? Or after the takeoff, right after the takeoff yourself. But moms, they tested it. It's usually your answer is their kids first before them, even if they know the answer. Okay. So, well, the point of that video is moms are self-sacrificing like that. But because Roxy mentioned that, that's true. In an airplane situation, in a crash situation, you put your oxygen mask first, but it tells you something. You got to save yourself first. How can you help others if you're dead, right? Okay, so That's that. And then, but the rescuers, I'm talking to Gina as an EMT, but the rescuers, who do you have first?
Oh, it is scene safety, you don't do anything. Scene safe.
Right? The scene is safe. Okay.
It would be, well, you help people walk or who are not, who get out first or who, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's the next level down, and then if you just go ask them if they're dead, or come and keep. And if they're going to die, and you know it.
So it depends on the situation. Roxy is always special yourself. It's true though. Right, exactly. So we usually, that's why I said it depends on the situation. Elderly, handicap goes into the priority list. Children goes into the priority list as well. Pregnant women goes into the priority list as well. Okay, but it depends on the situation. Yeah, keep yourself safe first, because how can you help if you're dead? How can you take care of your loved ones if you're dead too? That's also the thing. But I don't know. That's what they said. Moms are just so different, like different, so selfless. Anyway, so that's triage. It will be on your final exam. It usually is a common question on the PTCE, but we'll deal more with triage come sequence 3, customer service. You're going to have a crying baby at the same time, an irate patient in pain at the same time, somebody who just got out of the dental office and is dripping blood in there. Hey, you're looking at me, you missed that. She's looking at me like, and do that. Okay. So anyway, let's go back to NDC numbers, since this is a common question on the board. How many digits? What's the first break? How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 digits. The first 5 digits pertain to the manufacturer. They have their code. Like Merck, Glaxo has their own manufacturer code. Abbott, GSK, you name it, Johnson & Johnson. What's the next? There's a dash, and then how many? Okay. The product, we call it a product code or the drug code. Okay. For an amoxicillin, there's a code. For an ibuprofen, there's a code. Okay. And then the last 2 will be package size. This last 2 always comes up. It'll tell you, we'll give you NDC numbers. And it will say, what does 1 and 2 pertain to? Like 1, 2, or what does 0, 2, what does 6, 0, whatever it is. The answer is package size, but that's on the last 2. Sometimes the question is this one. What does the 4 digits at the middle, and you're going to specify the 4 digits at the middle pertain to? And the answer is product or drug code. Is that clear? You have to know this setup. You have to know this format. Okay. NDC numbers. So we use lot numbers and NDC numbers for recall. Okay. NDC number, we use that when we pull drugs as well. Okay. Be careful though. There are many manufacturers, just like you presented today, Warfred. Yeah. They like creating the same exact drug in different strengths. So they will have the same exact manufacturer, correct? Numbers. Same exact product or drug code, correct? This is what will vary. You follow? So this is important because when you pull, you don't just like, sounds cool. Right? It has to match your bottle and it has to match the NDC number. Because you will have a lot of NDC numbers on your drop down. That NDC number should match whatever you pull there. And that's where the barcoding system comes into play. Because if you barcode that and you pull the wrong NDC number, it will not go through. Okay, the drug, if you pulled or you use the correct item on the drop down menu and then you barcoded it, that will go through. But you see how sometimes this is the only difference, the last 2 digits, because of this trend. Okay, so the generics will have what? Different first 5 digits. Because it's manufactured by different pharmaceutical companies. Different companies. Is that clear? Any questions? For almost
Package size can be referred to strength.
package size can be referred to as strength, how much they're bottled, like it's a 60 tablet bottle, 30 tablet bottle. So this changes. Okay, so it can be package size, or is it a bottle? Is it a jar? Is it? So they have their own code for package size, but it's the last 2 digits. Okay, know this format. First 5 digits is the manufacturer. This is the actual drug in generic. Okay, product or drug code. And then this is the package size. And this stands for NDC number. And what does NDC mean? National Drug Code. Who issues the NDC number? The manufacturer, not the FDA. Is it required? No. So you will see some bottles without NDC number, but it's actually good for the barcoding system. That's why 99% they have it. Any questions? Okay, 2 more items since I'm in here on the generic and the brand. Okay, if you're asked, what book? There's 3 favorite books that show up on the PTCE and it will be on your final exam. Okay. What book has generic or therapeutic equivalent? The orange book. Good job. And what book has information about injectable drugs? It's right here. We passed it around. Handbook on injectable drugs, but there's a name that you should remember. Starts with a letter T. Look it up. Tell me tomorrow. It's a name. It's not in here because it didn't have that name. Okay, but it might show up, and it will show up on your finals. It starts with a letter T. How do you call that handbook of injectable drugs? It starts with a letter T that we use for injectables. Okay, any questions? You still like this video? Do we delete it, Jen? Okay, we're keeping the video. Okay.